Hello, my name is Dr. Kevin Sanford. I am a adjunct professor of management at Woodbury University, University of Redlands. Today, I'm talking to you about a topic which is really exciting to me about leading across generations and what that means. One of the things that I talk about in my classroom is the fact that a leader is not always a manager, or a manager is not always a leader. And so it's possible that as whatever position you're at within your organization, that you'll be working with different people from different generations. And so we are at an unusual time now where we have different generations contributing to the same work environment, maybe doing the same task. Traditionally, you would graduate high school or college, you go to the workforce, you work your way up from the bottom up to senior management, and you're probably in that same organization for most of your life until retirement. But that is not the case anymore. Now it's much more of a time where you've got different generations working in different levels. As a high school, someone graduates, goes to college. After you graduate college or university level, then you go straight into senior management, or you start your own company, or situations where you've got people that are older people that are maybe it's their second career, third career, for whatever reason, good or bad, they're now starting at your organization at the bottom of the employee chain, and that's okay, depending on what it is that their job they're doing. But one of the things that we have to understand is that it is our job as a leader within the organization to be able to try to incorporate the different experiences and knowledge that comes with people from different generations. Again, it says generational diversity is not a leadership problem to solve. It's a leadership opportunity to leverage. We have to keep in mind that as leaders that we will have to deal with different people from different backgrounds. One of the things I also talk about from my military experience, I was in the Marine Corps for 15 years, academia, I've been teaching for over 10 years, and business experiences, I've owned businesses, I've worked for businesses. And one of the things that I've tried to incorporate or to let my employees know is that the best way to try to manage people is to if you can figure out why they do the things they do and how you can get them to work well together. And one of the ways that you can do that is by focusing on a common mission or goal. And that seems to work on lots of different situations. One of the things that, again, we have to be mindful of is the fact that we now historically live in a time where you've got different generations working together. And those different generations are bringing lots of different things to the table. One of the things that, depending on what graph you're looking at or what picture you're looking at, different people are categorized into different eras that they were born. The baby boomers are generally born from 46 to 64, and Generation X, 65 to 80, and so on. And they're known for these different values. These values may not describe people that you know or describe you even, depending on where you're at on the chart. But again, these are common characteristics that are attributed to people from those eras, and for lots of different reasons. But we have to also be mindful of the fact that even though that the people are known for these different areas, that we have to avoid stereotypes. Not every millennial wants feedback. Not every boomer resists technology. Not every Generation Z is proficient in the area of technology. And also keep in mind that these different titles, the baby boomers, the Generation X, millennial, Generation Z, they are used only as late as trends from different times that people were born, and not to label or to categorize people. You are a baby boomer or you are a Generation Z, so we expect this out of you. So again, that is absolutely not the goal of categorizing people. Again, they're not labels; it's just for trends. And again, you can look at different perspectives. They have different areas where they have they categorize them slightly. Then maybe the year is off, but again, this is for the purpose of this presentation. We'll use this graph here. So there are common challenges that come along with dealing with people from different generations. I know my experience in the military, as well as in academia or the business world. Again, you deal with it, and it's our jobs as management to adapt and to try to understand our employees. And you have to realize that there are different preferred types of communication. Some people use text messages. Some people prefer emails. Some people want a handwritten note. Some people want to meet in person. There's lots of different areas that you have to be mindful of. And the different views of authority. Once upon a time, when you started working in an organization, you had more of a hierarchical organization where you go up the chain. And now, again, as I mentioned previously, that's not the case. Now you have people coming in at all different levels. And then there's also the technology adoption. So some people maybe are quicker to adopt the technology, some are not. Some were born into technology where others weren't. Some adopted technology later on. And so we have to be mindful of that, depending on what you're asking someone to do within your organization, is do they have the ability to do the task that you've asked them to do? And they may require more training, or you may require more training to be able to direct them. Again, it's something that's doable, but you have to be mindful of the fact that it's not as simple as just plug and play, that you put someone to a position or a job and they'll just know what to do. You may have to, no matter what generation they come from, you can't assume because they're Generation Z that they're going to be proficient with technology, because again, not everyone is. And so again, those are just general guidelines. So I'm going to now focus on the 3 key principles of this presentation. We have to be mindful of the fact that, as I mentioned previously, that you want to try to keep people focused on the mission. People from different backgrounds maybe have different shared experiences that they can hopefully bring to the table, while other people, maybe they don't understand, why you're doing something or how you're doing it, or you may have different levels of engagement or dedication to your different, whatever the job is. Ultimately, you want to try to develop a culture or a subculture of corporate culture, focusing on the organization and the hopefully whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish at your organization. You have to adapt communication. Once again, as I mentioned before, that there are different people that want different forms of communication, maybe a weekly meeting or a monthly meeting, or constant emails or text messages or whatever. You may have to adapt accordingly, and also set standards to try to bring up people up to not necessarily the same level, but close to, just for dissemination purposes or communication purposes. And you can take it as a learning opportunity too, or a training opportunity to be able to engage in simple things, or things that you may consider to be simple that may not be simple for others. And also two-way mentoring. Be mindful of the fact that you may have people within the organization that have been around longer than you, and they have other experiences they can bring to the table, as well as people that are newer than you or younger than you that also have different experiences. And it is possible, again, that you may have a relationship where no longer is it the lower people talking up to the upper people, the upper talking to the lower people, but it's more of a mixture of both. You've got a two-way mentoring where you can learn from those that are below you, and for those, if someone's above you, you can teach them as well, and you can learn from them. And so again, it comes out to be a really positive experience, which is again sort of which is the focus. Keeping in mind that when you do have different areas that you bring to the table, that you may have to, again, as I mentioned, you may have to have training for communication across the board, but also you have to be mindful of the fact that whatever experiences that they had may be beneficial to you or to your organization. Let's see. So years ago, I was watching TV, and I remember watching a news channel about a warehouse where they assembled syringes, like little plastic syringes. They would put the stopper into the bottom and then pass it down the assembly line. And in this organization, they had, the reason why they're doing the news story on this show, on this company, is because they had 16-year-olds right out of high school, or in high school, I'm sorry, working on the assembly line, but they also had one person that was 100 years old. And I remember my mother-in-law at the time said, I would hate to have to work at 100. And I said, well, we hope that we can work at 100. And so, we all laughed. And then from a management perspective, I thought about having to manage a 16-year-old and a 100-year-old, and then everyone in between that. So you're not just dealing with two employees, maybe you are, but in most cases, not just two employees. And how can you effectively communicate with those people on how you want them to do the job that's necessary? Now, something as simple as, or potentially simple as assembling the syringe and then passing along the line, then that's the directions are pretty simple, I would assume. However, if you're dealing with different areas that require different training or different information, you have to be mindful of all those things. And once again, my takeaway from working with different generations is that they do have a wealth of information, the younger people as well as the older people, that they bring to the table. And it's our jobs as managers or leaders to incorporate that and learn from their experiences. Because again, it is a skill or a strength that we need to learn to leverage, because again, they do have their life experiences, which can potentially be beneficial to you and to your organization. So thank you.